The female swim team at Stanford is coming forward and talking about what they personally experienced with Brock Turner. Now, Brock Turner was the former Stanford swimmer who was caught raping a woman who was unconscious behind a dumpster. He was sentenced to a measly 6 months in jail, not prison, and as a result, that story became a national headline. Well, now the women of the swim team feel comfortable coming forward and talking about their own experiences, and they spoke to InTouch. Now, it's important to remember that they're still going to Stanford, and according to what they say, the university tried to encourage them against speaking out. So when they spoke to InTouch, they did not reveal their identity, but we do know they're part of the swim team. So one of the swimmers said, Brock's arrest wasn't surprising to anyone on the team. From the beginning, the women swimmers had found him to be very, very odd. Brock would make comments to the women such as, I can see your tits in that swimsuit. The source said some members of the women's swim team considered writing letters to the judge describing their unease with Turner, but those statements were never filed, and they're saying the reason why they were never filed is because, again, the university encouraged them not to do so. So the letters that we're talking about are the character letters that people write in to the judge before he decides what the sentence is, and dozens of Brock Turner's friends and family members wrote glowing letters about him, and that might have influenced the judge's decision. But these female swimmers were discouraged from doing so. Now, she also says there were rumblings that the women were pressured by Stanford officials to not do it since they hadn't witnessed any crime that Brock had committed. So that was the argument that the administration at Stanford allegedly used. Hey, you didn't see him rape someone, so even if he sexually assaulted you or sexually harassed you in any way, doesn't matter, don't write these letters.
39. 39 is the number of people that came out and spoke on behalf of Brock Turner. 39 different letters were reviewed by the judge before he gave that lenient sentence. I can't help but feel like Stanford as the institution, if this is true, is almost like is definitely so responsible. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's more women in the U.S. that go to college than men right now. Like, we should all be outraged. Like, they're going to lose?
I think people should be outraged because these cases keep popping up on various college campuses, and it seems like either the administration at these universities are so afraid about their reputation that they just want to brush it under the rug and not do anything about it. Every allegation of sexual assault or rape is met with huge skepticism, and that deters a lot of people from coming forward and talking about what they've experienced. And look, I don't think that there's this weird epidemic of female college students lying about getting raped on campus. I mean, how ridiculous is that? And so if we actually genuinely care about creating a safe environment for students on college campuses throughout the country, we need to take these allegations seriously. Now, I'm not saying that just because someone accuses someone of rape, you immediately take that for what it's worth and then you go ahead and you kick someone out of the school or, no, I don't want knee-jerk reactions. I'm saying that there needs to be a system in place that fully investigates allegations and then figures out what really went on. Again, I'm not saying someone's guilty as soon as they're accused, but the fact that these schools refuse to even do proper investigations, and they even go further, they deter students and discourage students from coming forward, is crazy to me.
Yeah, Anna, I agree with absolutely everything that you are saying. I would like to just point out for both of us, I want to believe this account from the source, from the unnamed source. I understand that she is in school right now. There's a reason for her not to give her name. However, if this is perhaps somehow in any way, shape, or form fabricated, it would not be the first story by InTouch that I have read as a big fan of The Bachelor that has been exaggerated or fabricated. Yeah. So I have a feeling that this is probably true because from all accounts that have been very much corroborated and by named people, Brock Turner is a huge piece of shit. Well, he's like a skinny piece of shit, but like he's definitely a piece of shit. And I think that it is worth you looking into it as if this is true, but I think we just don't know who this source is, and so I've just been burned by InTouch before, so I'm like a little hesitant.
Look, I totally feel you, and to be completely honest with you guys, there are usually a few strikes in an article that'll
that'll kind of give you a little bit of an asterisk
yeah.
that this is a little bit fishy. It seems a little bit too easy. And
right. Sometimes you get this gut feeling that something doesn't quite make sense. And first strike is when they don't name the source. Second strike is when it's from, honestly, a publication like InTouch. But sometimes InTouch does great work, which is why, you kind of have to take it for what it's worth, okay? Again, it's an unnamed source. If you don't want to believe it, that's on you, but the guy's already been convicted of rape.
Yeah.
And then another
Chances
thing,
are.
yeah. And then another thing I want to say is then there are very reputable news sources like Rolling Stone that write pieces like the Virginia University of Virginia student who went by Jackie, and she completely fabricated her story, right? And they didn't cross-reference, they didn't talk to other sources. So you have to be careful and do your due diligence regardless. But I think that, based on what we know about Brock Turner so far,
well, we know he raped someone.
Like this
we know he was convicted. Like, we know he raped someone. So we know he's a huge piece of shit. What we're discussing now is whether the sentencing was too lenient, and I think it's been talked up and down over and over again for the past couple months, rightfully so, by the way, that the sentencing was too lenient, and the fact that a lot of outlets didn't feature his mugshot because the police wouldn't release it, the fact that he was viewed as the Stanford star swimmer, the white, Stanford beautiful white blonde male who was a, great student. And that is, they're almost as responsible as Stanford if the story is true that they stopped students from coming out and speaking against Brock Turner in a way to give more background detail on his character.
Yeah, and just part of a larger issue that you were kind of talking about before, Anna, where colleges need to make it, they can't discourage students from coming forward. They need to make it just easier for people to feel comfortable to, if they have an experience, if they're being harassed, if they've been assaulted. Colleges all across America, universities, need to work to have some sort of a system in place so that students feel safe, that they can come forward and they feel like they're going to be heard, and that these cases will be investigated and that they matter, that they're, because I think that that's what the issue is that students are being assaulted and students are having these experiences and they're not being validated. They're not, people are just writing it off like, well, kids do that when they drink. No, it's not about sexual promiscuity like the survivor said in her letter. It's not about drinking and sexual promiscuity. It's about sexual assault. And colleges and universities can't dance around it anymore. I'm glad that this case has been such a headline because we're finally talking about it in a meaningful way.